Hello everyone and welcome to yet another live coding and chill. I'm your host, Johnny. Glad to be here. I hope you've had amazing weeks and you're gonna have even better weekends and Friday evenings. Maybe coding along with me. Let me know what you're up to. Let me know what you're building. Let me know if you're just chilling. Today, we'll keep adding to our Culture Stock app. This is a live app. You can actually go to, log in, do all the cool stuff you can do in our app. And as is tradition, we're gonna log out and log in and see if we have to commit Sudoku, same our families, because something will not work, but it will work because we're awesome. But the thing we're gonna add today is search. Search with a command palette or an autocomplete element. We've done search with Svelte a few times. We've done search with Next.js as well. Sometimes we do pagination alongside it. Sometimes we do filtering. Sometimes we do both. This time, the twist is that we're going to use a command palette type UI functionality. This has been very, very popular in the past 3 years, maybe. I started spotting it in the wild, and now it seems every app has it. There are lots of cool components we can use to get a head start in building a UI like this. Even the Svelte docs themselves have a command palette, which most sites do have a search bar still at the top, but if you focus on it, or if you press Command K or something relevant to your operating system, you open this thing where you can search for anything here, and you get some results. You can select them, that sort of thing. Pretty cool, maybe inspired by how us engineer nerds that build these things, we have this functionality in VS Code, the command palette there. Super powerful. I love using it. So maybe like a rare design win for engineers that kept saying that this is a cool way for users to interface with apps. Something new for this episode. I'm trying out having this little farm at the bottom of the screen. Let me know if that's fun. In the rare cases where I'm not rambling and talking, or maybe even when I'm rambling and talking, you can have a look at Rusty here, trying to do some Stardew Valley type of watering, resource gathering, and that sort of thing. As we're building an app, Rusty's building their farm. Quite relaxing. Let me know if you find it relaxing. Let me know if you find it annoying. All right, so this is what we're doing today. And with command palettes, it's very often that you'll find suggestions at the top as well. So not just search results, you'll find your top hits, the things you've done recently. Even on a Mac, you'll see this, that it will show what you've searched before. It will suggest, or maybe you do want to do this. So it's a bit different than a classic search functionality. In a dashboard, you'd have a table of data, and then you'd want to search that data somehow. But with a command palette, I think it's more implied that you'd be getting suggestions and things you can navigate to as well. So it's not just search and filtering a little table there. So that's a bit of a difference, but I think that's enough for only talking. Let's get to coding. So here at 345, let's say that even on the live app, I've hidden a route here that you cannot navigate to unless you know the exact URL. You can't do anything. But so Google Chrome started doing this, and it's a bit annoying. I don't know why you'd want a search there. Anyway, that's by the by. We're gonna be implementing search functionality here, and we're gonna start, I guess, by doing the backend logic to just show some suggestions in the UI. Like nothing related to the URL, what the user wants to see, command palettes and stuff. We'll start just by rendering some of the things that we want here. Culture Stock, the app, is about logging your activities and potentially saying, oh, I liked it, or I didn't like it, or I had fun, or was it with someone else. You have a field of notes here. But today, we'll do a very simplified rate functionality. So you'll be able to search for games, video games, and through the autocomplete, you will be hitting a third-party API to get some results. Like I imagine if we search for Gate, we'll get Baldur's Gate 3 and the other Baldur's Gate, and maybe Hellgate or whatever else video game has that in the name. And maybe some misspellings as well will be allowed. But If you select a result, you should be able to vote on it and say, I really liked it or not. Maybe some emoji style voting. We'll probably do the actual voting part of the functionality in the next episode. Today we'll focus on the search via the command palette. So first of all, let's see some results. Let's see some hard-coded video game results. To make this route render, because it's on /rate, in Svelte, we've done this a few times, you need to reflect your directory structure in the file path, or vice versa. So source routes rate has a page.svelte, which has this to-do component here. I can change that. This is where I want to return some hard-coded, I want to display some hard-coded suggestions. But to keep things more easily refactorable in the future, when we hit a third-party API, I have this page.server.ts sibling page in the rate directory, which loads some data. As it stands, it only loads metadata, but we'll have it load some hard-coded games. I have done my dependency injection thing. I've introduced a games repo interface and implemented in an in-memory way, so it's not hitting Supabase, it's not hitting Redis, it's not hitting a third-party API, it's hitting nothing, just an in-memory, my own file that has 10 results in there, and some functionality to filter them. We'll see that in just a bit. So that means that my rate server load method, this one, because of the way we've done dependency injection, and as a reminder, our main server hook has a dependency injection handle. I've made this up, inspired by different languages. I'm sure other people have done it. I'm sure other people call it differently, but I really like it. I want other people to use it and let me know if you find this useful. So in here, in the locals, which is about the concept to put stuff in the locals so you can use in every route on the backend as much as you want. Something I really like versus Next.js, where you have to instantiate clients and connections all over the place. It gets a bit messy. You cannot do it in middleware in Next.js, which seems like the obvious way where you could do something like that. In Next.js, you cannot do that. In Svelte, you can just put stuff in the locals and take them out wherever you please. So in here, I do want to get the games repo out and maybe not like single line it. And say that we have suggestions and wait the games repo, just the search functionality, and then return some suggestions for the UI. The way Svelte works, it makes everything the load method returns available in the sibling plus page of Svelte. So in this one, if we do the magic props, and these ones, the props in the core pages get magically typed for us. So this one already knows that we have data, and in the data, we can destructure suggestions. Maybe I need to save harder, or am I making things up? No, sorry. You cannot do nested destructuring in Svelte at the moment. So this thing knows that data does have suggestions in there. We just cannot destructure it immediately. I think we do get a warning that we cannot do that. Not nested properties for computed keys when you call props. So that's a bit of a thing. That's a bit of a Svelte gotcha, but at least the language server does tell us that you cannot do that. So this one magically knows without me needing to type anything else. Thanks to what we return in the load method here, it knows we have suggestions, and maybe let's do like an ugly unordered list. We won't be using it too much. So let's say each data suggestions as ID name rating, they were autocomplete our way to victory. ID name year is what these have, and we don't even need ID, so just these guys. once again. It's hard-coded stuff, supposedly on the backend, and I spend a bit of time on the front end. Can't help myself. All right, so we have this hard-coded data. Great, step one accomplished. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Next step is to actually filter the suggestions based on search params. We've done this before, so the idea is that instead of showing everything, we want a way where the user types in an input we know in the future, and then they should only see results that are matching whatever they're typing there. How exactly they're matching may not be our concern. In fact, we'll be using the IGDB, which does its own version of matching that's a bit fuzzy. Anyway, that's by the by. You could be doing something in Postgres as well. We're using Supabase here, so we could do something cool regarding how we show results according to what the user is typing, but that's a thing for the future. Just notice that Throttle's principle is like twice, so let's just have one filtered. There you go. Anyway, as we've said, a common way to filter things, a standard way, is the way Google does it. For example, so if you go to google.com, manually go there, and you type anything here, then if you actually submit, you'll see that it has a queue for query equals this. All of these are set parameters. Sometimes they keep the original query as well if they autocorrect it for you, stuff like that. But it is a standard. When the user searches for something, then in the search params, you have a queue or query, and then the thing that they actually searched escaped accordingly. So that's what we'll do, but we'll use query because I like being explicit. So the idea is that if they go to the right page and they have like query it will only show results with the in the name. How do we do that? Well, anything that's in search params here, the backend has access to as well, because Svelte passes the URL object, and the URL object the autocomplete is throwing me off. The URL object has search params, and you can get Q, the GitHub compiler things that we're doing Q today. Usually asked in the chat, but I haven't seen anyone in the chat currently, so I'm not going to ask. This, we can pass it into my specific implementation of search, I think inside an object, I guess, maybe not an object. Sometimes it's null. Okay, let's say it defaults to the empty string and then it's happy. And then immediately you can see that it does match the few games that have the in the name. How does that work? Again, this is an in-memory repo for like demo purposes. I have this array of games, and then I have implemented this search method. And when you get, that's what this should be doing. And when you get a query, then I filter this hard-coded array of games. Lowercase the query you give me, lowercase the names of the games, and then if they match, they match. Of course, if you are storing things in Supabase, any Postgres database, if you're using a third-party API, you'll have more options regarding how you're going to search. You may be searching multiple fields, you may be doing proximity matches, you may be doing some cool things there. But that's for later. For now, this is just a very naive implementation with hard-coded data. Right, so this or null thing that I did saves me from doing this, which is fine. Maybe not. This is the place to do it. The interface. All right. So if I search for Zelda, Zelda comes up. Great. I think we're up to the next step. already. So if the user knows to go to this page and type in the query here, then they're gonna have their search done for them. Cool, but no one's gonna use it like that. What we want is a way for the user to reasonably interact with the website. You do that with inputs. With forms and inputs, the vanilla HTML way, and therefore the recommended Svelte way to do it. So in the UI, we can have maybe here a search element, which is kind of new, does nothing but semantics. So that's good. The HTML search element. You can actually name it. You can do quite a lot of things here. But if it's the only search you have in the page, then you can just use it as is, and it will make your website already a bit more accessible. Some clever things coming with this. Anyway, inside it, we want a form. So that's important to note as well, that the search element doesn't replace the form, even though here they don't have a form inside there. Interesting. So that's kind of interesting. Here they have search and form, and then they have an input element. In this one, they're not submitting a form, so they're doing client-side stuff. So that's why they don't have the form. Anyway, that's not what we're doing. Don't get caught out. We will be submitting a form. We will be submitting a form with a query input because we want to update the query search param to whatever the value is inside here. So the input is going to be type search. Looks great. And the name of that input is going to be however we want the search params to be updated, like which search param we're going to set. We're going to set the query search param. We could do Q as well, but we're doing query today. Unless you tell me in the chat you want something else. Right, so now in this input, when I search for the and press enter, it actually gets submitted, and immediately I get the results. If I search for nothing, you get everything. If I search for ghost, there is just the one. You do get, because this is a type search, you do get the browser-based X icon when you focus. Maybe you like that, maybe not. But that's by the by. And also, because this counts as a page navigation, you also get the page references API at work, which is quite cool. But not necessarily what we want in this case, because maybe you find that annoying when we submit every time. So we'll see how to override this in the future. In any case, we've managed to update this correctly. But what happens when we manually go to a page here? This is empty, while you would expect that this gets populated by whatever the search param already is. So if I search for Zelda and copy the URL or share it to someone else in WhatsApp or Discord or wherever else, then they should be able to paste it and go with Zelda pre-filled here. I think is the use case here. I think that's the design that we should be going for. And if you agree, then we need to pre-fill value here. And the value could be the initial query. So at this stage, maybe I will extract this into its own component to keep things nice and neat. Call it search form. Svelte, of course. Svelte component. And maybe we have a script tag where we do say that, maybe not, whether the initial query is this, like the value, let's say initial query from the page store that Svelte provides. We have the URL object again, so we can get the query here and then use it as the value here. So now if I search for I guess I need to find it. So let's create some state actually for this. The state is going to start as the query. Just making things up. You actually need to use the component you're building in order for that to work. So indeed, we made it work. No extra craziness. Forget this ever happened. We just start from page URL searchParams, and you don't even need to put it in here in the script tag. You can just put it in there. It's gonna work just the same. So I search for Zelda, search for gate, get two of them. I copy it, paste it somewhere else, and then it gets pre-filled correctly, which is what you expect. And on clear, it doesn't actually resubmit the form, which is kind of interesting. I guess it waits for user action. You can clear it, and then maybe you want to type. We'll see about auto-submitting the form if you rest your hands at the moment, but especially now that it does the navigation as well, it can be a bit annoying. So we won't do it just yet. We won't do it just yet. We will be planting some eggplants and cabbages here. It'll take a while to grow. I was planning to have the chill music of the game also sound in the background, but I've updated my software for audio capture, so it's not quite working, but hopefully you can hear me just fine. Right, so yeah, I think we're done. And what we need is to upgrade the design. So I didn't bother too much for once with the design here. Maybe let's just do like a clear results for now. Just for now, just to keep things separate. So we type here, we get some results. Great. We want to refactor all of this to the command palette style with shadcn, which is based on yet another Handabyte library, command SV, a port of another popular command palette library. It's quite awesome. We're on the anti-stack for sure. So yeah. Let's try to bring in a command palette. we're on the shadcn Svelte website, and we can go to the terminal, paste the way to add it with PNPM, install the command palette, which also installs the dialog component, which we didn't have in the project. And we can have a look. What did this bring in? Lips components UI, the dialog component. I guess that's if you want to do the Command K opens in a new window functionality like they have here. So Command J in this instance opens the demo one, and Command K opens the one that actually works across the shadcn Svelte website. Quite nice. The thing that pops up, that's a dialog. It does like a little blur and zoom in type of thing in the background. Maybe you can just about see it. Neat. So that's a dialog, and it is Svelte 4. It doesn't, a lot of these components don't look crazy complicated. Let's remember to figure them up. So they can be translated to Svelte 5. Well, all of them can be translated to Svelte 5 because this is the beauty of using something like shadcn. You own it, like you bring it in and then you own it. If you want to change anything, you can, because it's yours now. So just to show the one, let's migrate the dialog title to Svelte 5. The things to change are the way props work, rest props, and that sort of thing, and slots. So instead of slots, you have snippets, and instead of like a magic prop $$ props variable, you have props working more like the React style, dare I say. So yeah, this one looks fine. Hello Milos, nice to see you in the chat. I always get anxious when it's super quiet in the chat. I'm like, am I live? Is something happening? Is YouTube eating this? Who knows? So especially great to see you today. Right, so instead of doing all of this craziness, we don't need props, we don't need anything like that. We do need an extra thing, we need the snippet, because instead of slots in Svelte now, we're in their children. Or any snippet, I guess you can render. But much like React, the one you nest by default inside a component becomes the children prop. This is how React has always worked, but it's an underused feature of React. Happy to see it in Svelte, follow that convention. It does look a bit weird. I'm still unclear how do I pass like props here. But we may come to that in the future. This is not what this episode is about. Anyway, this will work the same. But we should be more focused on the command itself. Again, oh, we need this library. It's important to know. So let's bring that in. The Command Palette Svelte library, Command K for the command shortcut. So now it should be in, and I can only imagine it has TypeScript definitions. I can only imagine. A reload should convince it. VS Code that this is fine. All right, it knows where it is now. Great. Cool. We can do the same thing here with the props. Their main ones are a bit different, and we need to return the snippet. And then we spray these props, but we render the children. Just to show how this works. Cool. So I may be going over these later in the episode. Unlikely, because it's just boring work. If you've seen me do it 2 times, you've seen me do it 200. It's not going to be much different. But let's actually use it. So what are they claiming here? They're claiming that we want this command root. So in our search form, we can import this. And maybe instead of an input, let's see what happens. We have this command root component. Still inside the form is what I'm trying here. We do see it here. Great. Let's see what type of elements are we arriving at. So search form, these are my own things. And in here, we have like the command root, I suppose. And this is the input, which has a placeholder, and this is a list of results. Great. If there are no results, then it shows this. I guess we'll need some logic for that. And then you can group them. I don't think it will magically show the empty one, will it? Ah, that's kind of neat. So you don't need to if-else this, so long as you don't give these items, so long as you don't render these, then you're fine, I guess. Cool. Anything else I suggest we do here? Not really. Ooh, keyboard. Now that's an element. All right, so search for video games. That's what we want now. And we claimed that we want to give this a name. Is that really what we want still? Probably. And this is going to be the results that we get. We may have like a trending group. Then a suggestions group, especially when you have no results. So when you first see this page, then you see this command palette here with the ones that people have been voting on. And then as you start typing, ooh, interesting. So this expects to have all the suggestions in here. I see. So that changes things. So it's doing front-end magic for this. Interesting. We should be prefilling this with everything. And then it does the filtering client side. Very interesting. How do I use it as a search form? This is the thing that we'll want to find out today. I do think they have like a loading indicator. Maybe it's this one. in this example, they do have a loading functionality, which makes me think that there must be something here for doing some server-side work. Right, one of the questions is, if I give this name of query and I type hello, and I type hi, it doesn't update the URL. It's a bit annoying, to say the least. I'm sure that this takes events. He says. And we can use that to update the older form, I suppose. But that's not how I'd want to work with this. So yeah, let's focus on the one group of citizens. Do we still have a loading one? No, you're supposed to do something else, I guess. This one has a command loading, but it looks like this one doesn't. Ah, it does, but it's just a command primitive. I see. And you're supposed to put it first. You're supposed to put what you want to render here. Right, so you can style this nicely as needed. But we won't do it yet. Just trying to understand how this works. This thing can take props. So let's say that this gets the distance. It's a distance as prompts. And it's an array of game results. Get like this. And pass this thing to distance. All right. So not looking too crazy. So interestingly enough, if we weren't doing things on the backend, we'd have this nice command palette. But I guess when you press enter on something like on click, you'd be doing something. We'll find out. But we do get the nice autocomplete here, which is also super fuzzy. So the letters seem to be fuzzy matching by order, even if there are spaces, like VS Code does, I suppose. So if you say gate 3, like it matches 2023 because the result has it in it. Interesting. Interesting. So quite clever, actually, the filtering that it does by itself. Too clever for me. That's not what I want. And in the UI, here we have a rate result. Who knows? Like one of them, when you've clicked on one of them, it's going to be the voting card here. So maybe not title, maybe just a div to do voting card here. All right, so we have this fuzzy matching. I'll just jump for my coffee, which I've forgotten, and be right back for more. Because actually, we're kinda auto-submitting, but not quite what we want. And what we'll be doing next will be handle events differently. I'll be thinking about it. Be right back. We're back. Coffee's back. I'm back. So what's the situation? The situation is that we love the UI. The UI is exactly what we want, but it's too clever. I don't actually want to pass every result on the front end. And then have the front end filtering out stuff for me. What I actually want is for this to be a regular form, which I can submit and then tell my backend, give me some suggestions, give me some results. So I think I'll have to read the docs. There is no escape from that. Like any more docs here? Not really. It's the one we're using. Easy to react like everything. Yes. Cool. We can pass a filter functionality. Great. Custom filter functionality. We can disable the filter functionality. Even better. Are these docs all supported? Maybe if I go here. Ah, perfect. Perfect. Always go hand to stack. We can control it. Great. Can see whether something is hidden or not. All right, in the frequently asked questions. Great. Bring your own virtualization. I guess we don't want to virtualize the results. We just want to get all the results from the backend. All right, so should filter false. Now, no matter what we do, no filtering. Great. Next thing is, how do we make this submit? How do we make this input submit? Input, blah, blah, blah. Can be controlled like a normal input like this, but can it be submitted like a normal input? Don't want to do anything regarding state as well. And what else do we get? We get like the if you're focused on the input, you can go up and down on this. Great. I guess enter is trying to select one of the results, so that's fine. I think what we want to is to actually submit our little form or update our URL whenever, like on debounce. Right, so I've given this a name. Does it give it a name here? Is one of my questions. Autocorrect, spell check, blah, blah, blah. Does it give it a name? Yes, it does give it a name. So I guess it also gets a non-change, and we can throttle that. All right, I think we got it. I think the plan becomes manually filter and figure out next steps. Now, I think I've figured out the next step. It's to auto submit, which I think I had it somewhere. Yeah, there you go. So great. So to submit the form, we can probably add an on-change handler here, which I guess this input doesn't take because it's a lame Svelte 4 component. So let's switch that one. Trying to switch that one to a modern Svelte 5 component and see how we can do it with Svelte. Ooh, this also exists. We need a magnifying glass. How does it work? Do I have Svelte Radix? I guess the answer is yes. It brought it in for me. Fair enough. Oh, we also have it for the dialog. Right, so nothing on class name. The props are gonna be these plus a snippet. No snippet. No snippet. Inputs are self-closing. You see. Spread the rest props. Great. No children. But what we do have is a value that's bindable. So that's a new sort of thing. I don't know why it added like another one. Which defaults to this. Maybe just need to put this here. So we have a value that's bindable. And defaults to the empty string. Yeah. Not this dictionary because it's a big thing in SvelteKit. Bindable. And now we can use it with bind value. Great, should work the same. Updates the same, looks fine. It kinda goes upwards here, don't know why. Is it because we don't have a title? Alright, we were kinda scrolled down. Not convinced. There's like a little separator that becomes thinner as I type. A bit weird. But that's by the by. Here, I want an on-chains. I want something to happen on-chains. And maybe, do I want to call it like handle submit? Handle type in. We'll refactor it later. We know that this is going to have an event. This is going to have the event. It's going to have a current target, which is going to have a form because this is inside a form. So if event current target form and event current target value, maybe regardless. Not this return. If yes, then form requestSubmit. So this has caught me quite a few times. We need to request submit the form in order to keep things with the client-side router. If you just submit, then you switch to the proper HTML navigation, HTTP navigation and submission, like the old school way. But we want to keep the client-side router. We don't want to reload the whole app. And for that, we want to request submit at the next possible opportunity. So that's what we'll do. And if my calculations are correct, now if I type ghost, then it should be updating the query parameter. Oh, it does. But it only does it when I get out of the input, which is not what we want. Because this we don't want on change, we want it on input. So as I type, it immediately updates, but it has a few annoying things. One of them is that I lose focus on the input. And the other one is that the view transition is annoying. So that we don't want. Maybe we can get around this with some old school styling. And we can say, you know what, the whole search component has a view transition name of search. Themes search. And that will keep it in the page. Like everything else will change, but this remains in place because that's the default. The default view transition is we try to get as close to, we just try to transition this element to its next state and not do this fancy slidey thing that I've created. Cool. So that's good, but we still lose the focus here. So that's not great. And we've forgotten the initial value. So the initial value can be, as we said, page from the page store, URL, searchParams, get query. So now if we I was going to say now, even if we reload, it's fine. Document is not defined. What's that about? It's really flipping out given the page store here. I don't know why. I don't want to bind it. Just want to be the initial value. Hard crashes. Okay, it doesn't matter that much, so I'll ignore it for now. Everything else seems to be working. So we have a to-do here to actually respect what's in the URL. But the first one is I keep losing focus. How do we get around that? Svelte has thought of this. And I do have links in the description here, which they do tell you maybe some of these things you will want. The one I want is the data Svelte keep focus, which we can give to the form or the input. Now I can keep typing just fine. And I guess the whole page actually should not be doing an animation. Thinking about it. But for now, it looks kind of cool, so I will let it be. We can do like a separate transition for just the search, but it fills everything. It should be part of this page. But just to show that the search is firing, let's do this. Cool. What else do we need? Probably to debounce this, because we'll be hitting a third-party API. We do not want to hit it every time I type. So let's debounce or throttle. So auto-submitting, awesome, but too good, too annoying. We only want it to happen when the user has stopped typing for at least a little time. So we need to debounce this or throttle this or whatever you want to call it. So let's extract this to a method here. That is doing all of these things. Should work the same. But we can introduce some state. We can introduce a timeout. Which is null. Null or a number, we can say. We'll see what it thinks it is here. Let's say, do we type it here? Null or number. And say, should we call it timeout? What should we call it? When a user types, we can say that the new timeout is a set timeout where we do all of these things. Maybe we've extracted out the form. But I think it's gonna think that it's like timeout. It thinks it's a Node.js timeout. Let's say as number. On the backend in Node, timeouts are their own thing. They have a class timeout. On the front end, on the browser, there's just numbers. That's what the confusion is about. But the important thing is that I want to request a submit in a set amount of time, like 100 milliseconds. So now, this is only going to happen later. Is that true? Let's see. Yeah. So 100. Did I actually save this? Maybe not. 100 milliseconds is quite fast, turns out. Right, but we want to clear the timeout, of course. So when there is an input event, clear the existing timeout, and the new timeout is gonna be set. So we clear the existing one if it exists. When the input happens, in theory, and then setting a new one to happen in 300 milliseconds. But for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like we're clearing it. It's kind of weird. Like the first one happens in 300 milliseconds, but it's not getting debounced. Is it because I reassign it? Not sure. Also, I want to do, in any case, I want a cleanup side effect to clear the timeout when the component unmounts. Whatever we return in the effect method, this one, this part happens on mount, and the last fat arrow happens when the component unrenders. So that's fair enough. And here, it should be clearing the existing timeout. And only then that happens, surely. More bit UI problems, but not the one I was expecting. Ugh. VS Code auto imports getting me yet again. No, it works. Everything works. It's just the classic case of my editor trolling me. Alright, so this gets debounced just fine. If I stop typing for 300 milliseconds, I actually get some results. Great. So this one is actually matches, and we'll have a different category for suggestions. We'll call them something different soon. So on the backend, let's say that these are matches, and pass the matches here. I'm imagining that we'll also have suggestions for you. Reload harder. Sometimes it's not convinced by the magic typing. Right, so in the beginning, we won't have any matches, we'd only have suggestions. So we can check if we have matches, we get this. If not, then we can have a few suggestions, I guess. Like trending. Yeah, so these three from now. So let's say that we also have a trending method. It takes nothing and returns a few games. So we can go to the backend and also say trending. And we can do this in parallel if we want to. And I do all of this because I want the search form to have. Is the separator the problem? I guess so. Yeah, we can't see the separator. We should always have suggestions. So let's have suggestions group. And then a separator, but the suggestions group. Will also be given like this. Trending, we said trending, not suggestions. Trending. And maybe here. So it should never be empty, I guess. This one should never happen. So let's remove it. And let's get the trending out. So we have these guys. But I guess what I want to do in the beginning is to have no matches. Yes. If there is no query, then there is no matches. All right. So in the beginning, when you have no query here, then you just get the trending ones. You can select them. Great. But when you start typing, then you get the results from everywhere in the word matches. Yeah. What do you think about that? It looks kind of decent. The focus remains on the other one. It's kind of interesting. And also, these ones are not unique. Interesting. I guess we could also separate them by uniqueness. But yeah, that is interesting. Let's see if Handabyte has any instructions about focus. Not really. Selected. We can give it a value for uniqueness. And we know that there are going to be games and games in all of them. And so maybe get the idea out and say that the value here is like matches ID. And one of the trending ones, the value is trending ID. And now they're separated. Great. And we can give the loop parameter. Now it will go cycle around all the way. Great. So you open the page, you see the trending ones, and then you say, I don't know, I want to type, I want to Zelda. Oh, so you see it here and here, that's fair enough. We could do something so trending doesn't include the thing you searched, but I don't really mind. I'm being honest. All right, so what else do we need? It does go and select like a random one, which is kind of interesting. How do we specify which one we want to be the selected one? pointer, enter. And this one becomes active. Oh, interesting. Gets a progress indicator. We don't want nested items, but do want to know which one is selected. How do we affect that? That's my question now. Let's farm something quickly. So, question is, how do I specify which one is selected? Because I would want every time, like you type, you just select the first one and not go back to whatever you've selected before. Like initial select, something like this. My little doggy is dreaming of running in the fields in the meantime. So they magically get data selected, right? Yeah, so that's data selected something. But how can I say I want to provide data selected? I guess I could style it. Hey, here's a way to do this. State stuff, blah, blah, blah. I guess in the state they have a selected field. Maybe we want to create our own store. So what's this store thing? Let's see what it is. Let's say let state command state. I'll figure out what it's going to be and pass it into our root. And this one, supposedly this. we need to bind it. Search value filtered, too many things. What else can we use here? It makes the state store available, which is probably what we need. But then it's only available underneath it, which is a bit unfortunate. But maybe not actually. It is because I would want this handle input to have access to it. Here we go. That's the thing we need. So the search is page. Let's say it's nothing for now. The value should be something else. We'll find out. And this filter thing. Ugh. I really don't want to do this. But I do want access to that store. Why do I want this selected to affect whether data selected works or not? It's too much for now. Don't want it. Do not want. But they have this state store thingy in the root element here. Supposedly. Couldn't find it. All right, let's not worry about it too much. The highlighting doesn't work. We'll make the highlighting work at some point. What did we change here? Justify between used to work, didn't work. Let's add it here too. These are the same, I suppose. We could use snippets for these. For sure. Should we? Let's do it. And what they actually get is ID name year. So instead of doing this, let's render snippets. Do we have an example with eats? Kinda. In particular, I know how to call it. Naming things is hard. Because we also named these snippet item. Let's say it's command item. So now we can do render command item. But the value is different. Maybe the prefix group. It also takes group. Group string. And use the group here. All right, so now the values are unique again. Great. Great. The initial value is not getting pre-filled, but we'll fix that in the future. Maybe we should hit, hello, Ocean. Ocean, how are you doing? Thank you for coming by and dropping by. So we have this command palette. We've thought these. I think the interesting thing to do now is to actually hit a third-party API and actually show some video game results here. And then we can see what happens when you actually click on one of the results. And then we can worry about pre-filling the value. And what happens when we select. Which will be, this is the one you selected. Here's a nice voting card with a thumbnail and some emojis, and you click on the emoji and you vote, and then you see what other people have voted on this as well. And that's the dream. So let's do it. Did I actually show if this works? So let's see the logout functionality. Logout, login, various ways to log in. One of them is with tweets, which is kind of important because regardless of how you want to log in, Magic Link, Google, or tweets in this app, we're going to be using the credentials and the secrets that we have from the tweets integration to hit the Internet Games database. So that's the thing we'll be doing next. We'll be hitting these guys which maybe were bought by Twits. Maybe the Twits created them. Not quite sure, unclear. But they have a quite cool API with generous limits, and that's the one we'll be hitting today. If you did like the login flow, if you did like what you're seeing today, I should have mentioned JOHNNIFY Premium, get all the code that we're showing in all the streams, get the whole private GitHub organization, see it for yourself, get started faster. And even SuperForums has the Command Palette search functionality here. I like the UI, I like this UI more. This icon should raise a PR for this, doesn't match the theme. Command plus K opens up this. It looks very nice. This one should match the theme, that's the one thing. But yeah, it's the thing we're trying to do here. Button and dialog. Anyway, how do we hit this API? We'll find out. First up, we need to authenticate. And as I mentioned, the login flow of the real app, which you can go and log in, has Twitch credentials, which we're going to be reusing for this functionality. The idea is we do a post request to Twitch with our client ID and client secret, which you can also use for your Auth2 type of social login. And then we get an access token back, which expires in about 2 months. So you can actually store this for a while in your database and reuse it for a long time. But I think we'll just use it and set a timeout for 2 months in the future to actually delete it. Because we're deploying on the edge, I don't think any one of our methods is going to be alive for that long. But it is the first step. So, as a reminder, in the test file, you can see we have already Twitch client ID, Twitch client secret. They don't actually look like this. These are samples for you to fill in when you go through the flow. Not a pleasant UI Twitch has for devs, but you can do it. I believe in you. What we do have is an in-memory games repo, as you remember, that implements a search and trending functionality. But now I want an video games DB API games repo. So we're gonna implement by hitting that API. Maybe the trending will keep the same for now. Just for games, let's say these 3. That's return on. But to search, we'll want to hit the video games DB, the VGDB API. Should I lowercase this? Maybe. We're gonna implement the search in a different way, but the first thing we want is an authenticate, maybe private method. So this will have a token. It's going to be string or null. And our authenticate method is going to be setting the token to something. But what exactly it's going to be whatever the result to this fetch call is. So just search parameters here as well. just a post request to this one. So just double check. Return this. It has the expires in the token type, which is, we know what it is. So let's fetch. Which promise is going to be this. Fetch this URL. But the client ID, we're going to put in our Twitch client ID. The client secret is going to be our Twitch client secret. Current type is going to remain the client credentials. Great. But we want the method to be post. And I think that's it. What we'll be getting back is a JSON object. It's fair enough. Can I type this? Probably not. And now we want the access token to be this, and even maybe set a timeout. And exactly, expires is in seconds. And JavaScript does things in milliseconds, so we multiply by 1000. So that should get us there. Even though this is going to be running on the edge like a short-lived method, we won't have a node server running for 2 months to actually get the expiry. And I do believe the expiry day for these tokens is 2 months. So there you go. But if that has happened, what we really want is a search functionality, that's for sure. And we can even behind the scenes ignore, like if no query or query length less than 2, then return empty array immediately. But if there is no token, then we can await this authenticate, and it will do the authentication for us. And then finally, if everything has gone correct, then we can move on to searching for video games. So we've authenticated. We want to search for video games and return them, map them. Who knows what we need to do. And we have the JavaScript examples here where it looks like we want our authorization bearer token as a header, the client ID as a header, and then also to hit a specific URL. So base URL helix. I don't know what helix is, but it's not what we want. Base URL is this with the v4, and we'll want to fence this base URL / games. And that's it in the URL. Everything else is like in the body of the response. So the method should be post. The headers should indeed be client ID, Twitch client ID. They kinda knew this, but let's do the headers object. And the authentication, the authorization header, bearer this token. So that should be fine, but they've misspelled this. No, this autocomplete was fine. Yeah, so that should work. But they have like a specific way, like they have their own weird query language for searching that API. So you can specify the fields that you want. And if you want to search, they have like a search functionality. You can exclude various editions of games. You can get the human readable version. Of the release date. You can specify the platforms that you want. Many cool things here. Realize this is like way small. So this one, the exclude versions one, is essential for things like Assassin's Creed, like no parent. So you have the fields that you want. They don't have a place where you can see what the game object actually is, but you can kind of derive it from other things that they have here in their API reference. The search string should go here, so that's good. And you can specify some where clauses, which we'll also need. So let's see. For the body, my calculations are correct. The autocomplete is kind of correct actually. Let's specify that the fields that we want is the name of the game. I think we always get the ID of the game. I think. Let's see if that breaks it. We could get the cover, like a thumbnail, but we won't be using it now. Could be getting the first release date. I think that's something that we will be using to show the year from the release date. And maybe that's it, like ID, name, and year, and we'll map this to what we want. But then the search encased in strings is the query correctly here. And limit 10, sure, 5, let's say 10. And when you search in this API, you cannot sort. So there's that. But I do think it's a good idea to specify the version parent null to not get various editions of the same game. And maybe games that have been released already. So we can do date now for the Unix timestamp divided by 1000 because they want seconds. I think that's what we want. Let's see. So we have the fields that we want. We have the search query. We can specify a limit, maybe in the end. And we have the where clause, according to when we're asking for this. And then, if the response is not okay, search with the IGDB, but if that's fine, then we should be getting some games back. I don't think we can alias what they return to us. So let's see. Search games response. I do have a reference somewhere here. I think search response game item. Let's say that it's that. I think we get an ID back, which is a number. I think we've asked, and we get a name, which is a string. And we get the first release date, which should also be the epoch number. We want to map that to the year. So maybe we can say that this is this. And then I do believe if we map this thing, and doggy is laughing. I think that's correct. I think that should be correct. All right. So let's see. If we come here searching for nothing, let's see what the agenda is like. Let's see if we are at the does this thing work demo. All right, will it work? We've implemented our video games DB API games repo. We don't need our in-memory games repo anymore, so we can go to our dependency injection handle and say that our games repo is actually the IGDB. Did I rename this or not? No. VGDB API games repo. Name it like this. And that in the dependency section handle can actually bring that one in, use that one. And I still get the trending ones because we've hardcoded them. Let's see. This is the demo. If I search, will we be getting results? Will we be getting results? Oh, I needed to press enter for some reason. I was like worried. I did not, just took a while. All right, so it looks like it works. Sometimes they have no date. It's interesting with this one because we do have a mass effect result. Right, so we could use a loading indicator for sure. Baldur's Gate returned nothing. Interesting. Sometimes it returns, sometimes it doesn't. I wonder if we get... we have a mock service workaround that is just letting these things go free. We'll be talking about that in a moment. Oh, the timeout. the timeout is too long. Right, this mostly works. Maybe we want to filter or reduce the games. Let's say reduce. Let's say this is an array. So we have the accumulator. Let's say if we don't have a first release date, then just return the accumulator. Or if we have a release date, let's push to the accumulator this thing, this game, valid game, or else, well, regardless, return the accumulator. And this should be search for, no, search response game items. No, this should be game results. What do we call it? Game result. Should be these guys. Need to type it somewhere else. Reduce to game result array. Perfect. If they have a first release date, then put them in there. Let's see. If I search for mass. Alright, so that weird mass effect with the nan, not a number, it's not appearing anymore. So good, looks decent, looks fine. What else do we want? So yeah, my timeout in like 2 months is not sensible. But when would it be sensible? If that's this, is it sensible? Like 1,000 times less than 60 days, 0.6 days. Just create one every half a day if needed. I think that may be fine. Let's see. All right. So kind of works. I just want like a nice way to make this expire. I guess I can have a date somewhere and check the date. But this is why there are third-party libraries, because nobody wants to do like 2 months with authenticating things. We could be checking, do we have a token? Do we have a token expiry? Is the expiry less than now? Nobody wants to do that. Let's be real. Let's be real. So I'm not going to do that. Or do I? Do we also want like a token expiry? Without timeouts and stuff. So that looks sensible. And then we can check if there is no token or the token expiry is less than the current date. Then we re-authenticate. No timeouts, no nothing. More sensible. Don't leave hanging timeouts left and right. That's what I always say. All right. Assassin's Creed bundle. I think we can make it so it doesn't search for bundles as well. It's maybe is what we want. I think they have like a game category type of thing. So the category 0, I think that's like actual game. Not that category. Bundle. Remaster. So yeah, the game category. Main game is this. The DLC, do we want to do so the DLC? Maybe the expansions, the bundles. We don't want the bundles, that's for sure. Some expansions, yes. Mode, I guess not. Maybe episodes and seasons, sure. Whether it's a remake or a remaster, I guess. Not a port or an update. So let's see. I think the way they do multiple matches is and category equals 0, 1, 2. Maybe not the DLC. I guess I would want to say, did I like the God of War DLC, for example, even though it was free, so fair enough. Yeah, so 0, 1, 2, not 3. 0, 1, 2, sound expansion 4, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Why is 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9. It happened. We said it. All right, does that remove the Assassin's Creed bundle from here? Looks like the answer is yes. Great. All right, pretty sweet. So we've done some cool stuff in the end here, I would say. Whoa, whoa. Maybe too big. I think so. Yeah. So more sensible, the pros one. All right, so we keep hitting this API. If many users are using this, then we're kind of screwed. Because they do rate limit us. Let's see the rate limit. I think it's 4 requests. Rate limit 4 requests per second, which is, you know, workable. So to avoid direct limits. So 4 requests per second with the bounds that we have is not too bad, but I would want to cast this request, and you can cast things in Svelte using the set headers method. And even search for cast, set headers. Do I have any examples? I guess I do. Do I have another example of how to set this? I'm wondering, should it be a public cast or a private cast? Should every user see the same thing? And the answer is maybe, I guess. If you voted, then you shouldn't see the same thing. You should see your vote, I suppose. But the results should be the same, so we could do some trickery there. So let's say everyone sees the same thing to save on our casting DM cache. And I like to do the max AIDS solution. It's not that API. So I want to set this, and if we don't set public or private, the default is public. We could do private because we're voting. Okay, let's see what problem we're solving here first. So we are searching for mass, and we get a response back. This one takes a while, it takes like 2 seconds or something. Then we search for Assassin's Creed. Then it's 2 seconds still. And then we search for Mass Effect again. And it's 2 seconds again. Like a small response, but it still takes quite a while to get back. Can we solve this with headers? And Svelte in load methods provides a set headers method. It's in the end, say I want to set headers, cast control, max aids, something. But also let's make it private, just for me. So only like 4 users can be searched at the same time. There are ways to work with this API, including getting a data dump if you are a partner. But the idea is when you select a game, then we'll be putting it in our own database, and then we'll start like recreating their own database in our own, and then we can hit Supabase as much as we want. Pay them. But we'll see. Max age should be in seconds. So let's say we have like a minute. No. 5 minutes. Seconds. So the results of this will always be the same. Like they update like every day. And sometimes it flips out. But it's fine. So now let's see what happens. If we search for mass, if we search for effect, almost 2 seconds. If we search for mass, 1 second, which was fast. Search for effect again. Oof, we should be getting the cast one. So That one I'm unsure about. It's passing the invalidated one. So I think that's the thing. I think in real life you don't get this Svelte get invalidated. And you do get the CAS, the response. I think that's something for local dev. We'll find out when we zip. I think it's going to be fine. It could be some magic that's happening just because we're sending this form, but I don't think so. Anything else from MDM? It's comma, not this. Is that the problem? All right, here you go. Commas, not semicolons. Now it's gonna hit the disk cache because we said you can set up a private cache. Why we're setting a private cache for this? I guess we have some information about the user regarding their login state, and these are supposed to represent things they voted on, so that's why we're doing that. We'll probably have a proxy to our games repo, to the video games database. So we do use caching specifically for that. Maybe we can put even the responses in Redis or something, and not hit them all the time, because at least now it's usable for me, like more usable for me, getting fast results, like not waiting every time. But if there are at least 4 users in this app and they're like voting and says for the same time, we're gonna get rate limited and we need to try again. So yeah, in the future we need to solve this, but for now, just a 5-minute personal private cache for this user should be fine. Maybe this, like if you don't explicitly specify it, if you're logged out, you'll be fine. Maybe. All right. What's next? What happens when a user selects a suggestion? Good question. Next I have, could and should this work with superforms? So the thing is, while we're searching, like, do I want to pass to show like the loading indicator or something like that? Which would make sense for sure. While we're searching for results, do I want to show the loading indicator? Yeah, I'd say yes. And as we've seen, superforms does help us do loading indicator state, delayed state quite a lot instead of writing our own custom logic. So should we use it with our get form? Yeah, I'd say so. If we can, we should. But before that, when the user selects one, I want a voting card. I suppose that's what I really want. I want this to close. Do I want this to close? Maybe not. Maybe I want no results. Maybe I want to set the query to nothing, but the selected game to be something. There you go. There you go. Now we're cooking. So I don't want focus anymore. If I click something, I want it to be selected and appear here. So maybe no query anymore, but we have a selected game ID. Like a rating ID, rated activity ID, just activity ID equals something. So you've pressed Mass Effect, so you're getting the Mass Effect video game there. Or Mass Effect 2, whatever its ID is. I think that makes sense. And yeah, I don't want it to happen when they select it, really. I want it to happen when they press enter while it's focused. So how do I do that? How do we do that, Johnny? On enter while they're focused. So let's on the timestamp here. And try to quickly go through it. We may need to come back to this later, like on Tuesday, our next episode of Live Coding and Chill. Let's see. Don't need this. Our search form has its command item, and I think they have an unselected, right? And my question is, does this happen all the time? No, it happens only when I click it. Great, that's exactly what I want. So I can search for something, and then I get the ID of the game. With that silly prefix. Fair enough. Sure. So we get its value here, which we know where it is. Or we have its ID already. We don't need to do anything crazy. And then we can set selected, I guess. But we can navigate to the thing I wanted all along. Next URL equals page store URL. Let's create a new URL out of that. Because I want to manipulate the search params to set the activity ID with something, with this. The string version of this. And to remove the query. Does it have like unset? Query to nothing. And then we go there. And we want to go to there. So there you go. Snippet's been helpful. We need to do this twice. There's a power surge happening. So if I go offline, see you on Tuesday. All right. So we navigate again. I'm gonna need to fix these transitions. And we've unset the query, I'm sure. And then the activity ID is the game ID. Good. How am I gonna use that? I'm gonna use it because on the server side, we're also gonna search the activity ID. And if there is an activity ID, then I want to show it, I guess. This is flipping out because our games report doesn't have a find. Let's say that it returns a game or null. And let's implement this one too, which I'm going to delete soon, I'm sure. Find. All right, so we're gonna attempt to find the video game. Maybe the last thing we do today. Or null, and returns null for now. And let's say that this indeed takes an ID, string number or null. And we pass it in here. Great. How do we find a specific game? Using this, they have the games endpoint, I guess, which we have been hitting all along. But can we find by ID? Can we not? Oh, sure. It's the images endpoint, but I'm sure it's gonna work the same. So let's copy all of this logic. This search logic from here. Plunk. And say if no ID, return null, but if yes ID, let's do this. And will it be returning an array regardless? I guess so. I guess so. So no search. Not a weird ID clause. We just want ID equals ID. Limit 1. And should be fine. And then the first result should be the game. And then if it doesn't have a release date, don't return it, I guess. Nah, that'd be silly. Return it like this. All right, so this should be doing something, but we'll never know unless we implement the front end. So here, let's say that we have the activity, selected activity, rated activity to rate. Why not? Let's return it. It can be there or can be null. And let's go to our sister Svelte page and say maybe if data activity, selected activity, what did we call it? Activity to rate. Sounds like a map, but hey, too many curlies. If that, then render something, render. Do we have a card? We do. I think the background for us is better. Root header content footer. Sure. Let's put everything here. All right. The title, it's gonna be activity rate name. The description, we have it. The UI is gonna change dramatically. And then I do guess we'll have a form in the future. All right, here we go. We got it. So when we first go to this page, /rate page, we search nothing. We can click Mass Effect and we get Mass Effect. Here you go. Got them. We can search for something. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Or Odyssey, because I am Greek after all. And then you get it here and we'll have some UI to vote, like, yeah, happy, not happy. We should have an icon in the card as well. like the box art, something like that. Maybe that's the last thing to do. Do they have examples, these shadcn wonderful people with images? I think they do. Somewhere, surely. Maybe not. I was on the card, wasn't I? Yeah. Oh well. But yeah, there are some cool things to show with this API because they do offer cover art and retina versions. But given they don't have like an image example here, they must have somewhere cards. There you go. Many cards, all the cards that you want, but they have the same style of like the title and then the actions at the end and all of that. This one is more interesting. And this one's kind of interesting as well, but not the one we want. Because I wouldn't want something here. Like if I put something here, we'll just go here. Sure, fair enough. Can I do like a grid? Maybe not. Flex. Doesn't really change much. Just puts it at the top. And then the control flow of this will be a bit different. Hello, not getting mad. Nice to see you today. We've reached us at the end today. We won't be here for too long. Hope you had a chance to watch more streams and videos. Right, so it doesn't look that bad, if I'm being honest. We could just do the image here. First, we need to request the image. And I think we request it by asking for the cover URL. So let's see. Let's get the cover URL. And let's say that this now is a game item. Individual game individual game item. A great step, and I think one of the things that's really good about the software engineering is that you can literally deploy something and then send the link on WhatsApp on a friend and say, you know, click here. What do you think? Give me your feedback. I made this. You can immediately go from nothing to getting your friends to see something cool you made. I think that's amazing with software engineering. Even if you are a cook and you cook something, you can't just tell a friend, here, I sent you a pizza roll or something. It's harder. You need to organize to go to their place, come to them. It's pretty cool. And Vercel does enable it because they do have generous free tiers. There are also many solutions like Netlify, like everyone does something for free. So we're spoiled for choice. Fly also has if you keep it under $5, then you get the cost refunded. It's really cool. So this would be the same, but I'm thinking that it will have the cover URL. Let's say it's a string indeed. Does it come back like this? Not sure. I think from my notes here, the cover will then return an ID that's a number again, and then a URL that's a string, which is what we want. And why am I doing all this? I'm doing all of this. Definitely export these types. Or not. These are internal to the video games database, so this should be fine. So not getting mad said, so you're starting to get the hang of TypeScript, but it's still very confusing at this point. Takes a while, but I can say that it's been maybe 2 years that it's been helping me more than I've been fighting against it. There was a time I keep using the typed versions of TypeScript, of JavaScript. I used flow type, I used TypeScript, and in the beginning it was really hard. Most of the time it was fighting against what TypeScript thinks is wrong or thinks is right, or flow type thinks is wrong or right. But the past 2 years it's been really good, maybe 3 years now. When TypeScript highlights something, almost always it's because I've done something wrong, and it helps me refactor much easier and helps me against, it guards me against mistakes. So it is worth it. It is worth it. Right, so internally we have this, but the games repo interface, maybe we want to have a game to load on. That's going to have the same things, but also a cover URL that's a string. Sure, that feels right. For now. So let's say that, well, we're doing like lots of crazy things with TypeScript here. Speaking of TypeScript, well, it's fine, we'll get there. So our find method, let's say that this returns an individual response game item, and then we can also map the cover URL. Come on, it's trying to help in the wrong way. Game cover URL here. So that should look the same, but it does mean that in the UI we should be able to return here an image that has the alt cover art. For name, and the source maybe data activate rate cover URL. Let's see what that does for us. All right, that's something. And they do have a specific way they're doing images here. It looks kind of nice, I would say. It does get super big. We'll fix that in the future. So we'll need a separate component for this. I think they have various image versions. So what we get back, I think, is the thumb, which is 90 by 90. Huge screenshot. But we could request the cover big. So let's see if we just do that. Just replace thumb with cover big. How did it know? I was just thinking about it. So question, not getting mad. If can I tell you where you should use type and where you should use interface? It is a really confusing thing. Use type all the time. It's a very specific case where I'm using an interface here. I think almost no one else will be doing it in real life. Coming from other backgrounds like PHP or Java, then you may be used to having interfaces that your implementations are working against. But working with JavaScript, you will just be using interfaces or types to define that this object looks like this. And they are interchangeable. So if you're doing this, which you 99.9% are not, unless I guess if you're following along with my streams, you will at some point, but I'll probably be explaining it when we come to that. We'll have a section on that, I'm sure. Most of the time, you'll just be trying to describe an object and say, all right, a game looks like this. And in that case, whether you do type game is this or interface is this, for all intensive purposes, it's the same. It doesn't matter which one you do, so just pick the one you like and use that one. I think most people do type like this. That's why I use type. The reason I use interface for this is because it's the special thing where I'm writing a literal interface that implementations are working against. And then I can use this syntax that, oh, this video games database API is implementing this interface. You cannot implement a type. It's different. But for everything else, where it's the most common use case, this object looks like this, I just use types. It would be the same if I mix and match types and interfaces, or if I only use interfaces, but I use types for everything besides this, where I'm trying to say that this class is implementing these methods. Classes also is something that may be best avoided in JavaScript to start with, a bit more advanced later. So if you're not using classes, don't use interfaces, you don't need them, but don't worry too much about it too. That's advice. So we did that weird replace thing and didn't quite work. Do they not have a cover URL? Maybe they don't. Let's see what the actual image looks like. Yeah, it does have a T-thumb, which let's open somewhere else. It's here. So if I make this cover big, it is here. So that should have worked. Must have been something else. Maybe not. Do they not always have URLs? Does it flip out when I do it in a different way? When I start from this, something's going wrong. Name is not defined. I see. Maybe we're doing too many requests and it's flipping out. All right. Big. And this one has this width and height. It's a good idea to specify. So width is this. In the future, we'll be doing maybe too big. Here are your actions actually. Like at the end of this, it's going to be the way you want to vote. So yeah, not too bad. It may look kind of nice. That's not nice. Yeah, I'll think about this card component. I'm not convinced. We may need something bespoke for our use case, but we'll make it happen. So the cool thing, as we saw, they're giving us the thumbnail URL like this, but we can request different versions, which means that for different devices, we can get back bigger or smaller images. Because if you're on a smaller device, maybe you don't need the cover big version. You can do with cover medium. And the other thing that's cool is that you can append this underscore 2x, and it will give you a retina version of the image. So double the resolution. So that's pretty cool. We'll be doing an optimized image component in the future. But this is going to be it for today. I will be doing stuff offline on this. We didn't talk about mock service worker because especially when you're using a third-party API, you would not want to test actually hitting that third-party API because it may cost you money and it may be down, and that wouldn't be the fault of your app. And therefore, you wouldn't want your unit tests or integration tests to actually flag you and say, you've done something wrong. You haven't. And you definitely don't want to be exhausting your quotas and messing up your limits while you're testing. So if we're using ChatGPT, for example, OpenAI's ChatGPT, we wouldn't want to actually hit the OpenAI server every time we run a test because maybe we're running like 1,000 tests. We have many tests running super fast. And we'd be getting rate limited, we'd be getting charged, all the bad things. So we've talked about mock service worker before, which I have set up to conditionally run, and they always run on the tests. And it tells me that I don't have a handler for this URL, for example. What do you want to do? And in these situations, I would just let it pass through and let it go. But in some other ones, and especially the tests, I would say, all right, intercept it and pretend that this is the response. Return this or return that. So that's something we'll be covering in the future. But for today, this is going to be it. Let me know what you'd like to see next. A likely thing that we'll do next is the vote functionality. So now that we have the search input here, the command palette search, then you're going to get this nice card. And I'll probably have made it look nice by then. But what we could implement is the voting functionality. You get like 4 buttons of emojis or something, and you press and then you vote, and you see a percentage of how other people have voted. You see trending things, that sort of thing. Could be cool in conjunction with how would we test this. But as always, let me know what would you like to see, and I'll cover it, because that's what I want the most, to show things that people like. Let me know if showing this game while I read the docs has helped or not. I don't particularly know. I think it may be neat, to be honest, but I don't listen to its music while I'm coding, and I don't know if you find it annoying or not. I know that it's sometimes a bit satisfying, like while waiting for chat messages, to just do this. These look like grapes, but surely they're not grapes. And what's this? Wow. How did I grow this world's biggest tomato? Easter egg? Maybe. All right. With the farm kind of planted, I will renew our rendezvous for Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, where we'll probably be doing the voting thing. But let me know. Maybe you want to see something else. There's also a new app we will be making in the future, just to take a bit of a break, which would be probably a puzzle game app or a newsletter type of app. I was thinking Connections, the New York Times Connections game. Kind of new. I've been into it for a few months. It's very fun. I haven't seen anyone do it for anything really, but especially not for Svelte. So maybe we'll do the UI there. And again, some cool functionality on storing people's data, maybe using cookies, maybe using local storage, maybe using a database, creating your own connections and puzzles, sharing it with others. I think that'd be quite cool. Something for the future, but maybe you listen to the bits now and you're like, oh yeah, definitely saw this, or you have something else. Let me know. Thanks a bunch to everyone who spent a bit of time with me today, especially the people in the chat who said hi. And I will catch you on Tuesday. Bye bye.